Let's bring it Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds, SiriusXM NBA Radio at Caplan NFL. Do you have I know it's hard to put you on the spot with that, but do you have a song featuring a saxophone that is at the top of your list?
Mike, good to talk to you. You're not going to believe this. I actually used to play the sax. My wife bought me lessons. In 2002, when my teacher left, when he moved, I stopped playing it, but I love the sax. I'm a big David Sanborn guy growing up. A Chicago song is a great one that comes to mind. This is funny. You mentioned I've seen Boney James in concert. God, you name it.
Wow.
I've seen them all. Yeah, I'm a big jazz guy. Yes, it's funny you brought that up.
We may need a new saxophone intro made for the Inside the Birds podcast by Adam Caplan.
If I can take lessons again, Mosher, for me, I'll do it.
I'll bust out the trumpet. You bust out the sax.
Nice.
It's like Ron Burgundy with his flute, except it's going to be
We'll be down to 0 followers by the end of the week.
Yeah, well, what's old is new again. I mean, Jordan Matthews is back, so why not play the sax again? So we'll start there. Jordan Matthews, of all the options out there, I mean, do you say, look, the guy knows the system, he can play the fastest, or was there some glaring guy that they missed out on?
Well, Mike, my understanding is the only player they worked out yesterday in fact, they only worked out one player. They didn't work out any other positions. It was Jordan Matthews. Here's why you do it. Okay, fans were getting on me about this a couple days ago when I said they should do this. But let me just explain. And Jeff and I on our show, I explained it pretty clearly, but now I have a little bit more time to explain it further now that they've done it. Is he better than their number 4 and 5 receiver? The answer is yes. That's why you do it. That's why I called it a no-brainer. Yes, Aguilar runs a little bit better, but Jordan Matthews does get open. You could question he does drop passes occasionally. I had Jordan on with me on NFL radio in February, and we talked a lot about his career. We talked about his college career at Vanderbilt, where he only played it out the outside, and when Chip Kelly drafted him, they moved to the inside. He can play on the outside. Doug Peterson did it. It's clearly not his position, but here's why you get him. He's going to get open. The guy gets open. He's the other two kids who are not productive. That's just unacceptable. So you get someone who's going to help you. Mike, you nailed it. He knows the system, and you go from there. Is it going to be appreciably better? No, but he's going to be better for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't be upset that they didn't go out and try out Michael Crabtree or J.J. Nelson.
Michael Crabtree can't run.
Right, I figured that there's a reason why the Des Bryants, J.J. Nelsons, Crabtrees, I mean, all those name veterans, Terrell Pryor, there's a reason why nobody else is knocking on their door, right?
Exactly. Now, J.J. Nelson worked out for the Bucs yesterday. I talked to the Raiders. They said he simply could not stay healthy. By the way, the Cardinals got rid of him for the same reason. You're right, Mike. There's a reason why these guys are on the street. Now, Terrell Pryor, he hasn't had a workout in weeks. And Des Bryant hasn't had a workout in months. So you're right. At this point, you bring in a guy who knows the system, who could come in and play right away. And by the way, the Niners cut him less than 2 weeks ago. So he's ready to go. He's going to help them a little bit. And look, he has a very good relationship with Carson. They're very close friends. And they had great chemistry together. They didn't play together for very long, but the fact of the matter is he's going to help them. But that's the least of their worries right now. They have a tough schedule coming up, and they're going to need better productivity at wide receiver, no doubt.
So the question I think we all have to wonder now is, so the only time that Jordan Matthews you think is going to see the field is in 3 wide receiver sets, and we'll see how much Doug really relies on those going forward. But do you play him in the slot and move Nelson outside just to get that speed on the outside, even though you're not getting a ball catcher? Or do you put Jordan Matthews on the outside and move Nelson into the slot and make it so that at least Nelson is comfortable, he's where he's at, he doesn't have to move around, and maybe you can get Nelson reinvigorated back into your offense in that position?
I mean, didn't they go through this last year with these
two?
Yes,
they did. It sounds like something last year, yeah.
I know. So guys, my understanding was last year, what they were doing with Matthews is they would line
Adam, real quick. Plus, you had Tate to try to work in. I don't know how they view Tate differently from what Jeffrey does.
Well, the problem with Tate last year, Mike, was that they made the trade during the season, and most teams, although the Jaguars told me that they thought if they signed him that he could play on the outside, not just on the inside. But it was Jordan Matthews and all these players, they duplicate each other. They're basically slots. Now, Jordan Matthews is a tall slot. He's 6'3". But the fact of the matter is, Jeff, to answer your question and develop this a little bit more, you could just alternate. And we know that Aguilar runs better, but you got to, because of Aguilar's problems tracking the football, you're not going to really do much different with Aguilar. You could use Jordan on the outside and Aguilar on the inside as a vertical slot, but that vertical should only be 15 or 20 yards, not 40 yards downfield where he can't track it. I think there's a little bit better multiplicity here, but it still goes back to what you have. You don't have anyone who simply could get downfield. It's not going to change.
Yeah, Adam, and it's interesting with Matthews coming in here because I guess the critics out there would say you need a deep threat, and where is Matthews going to fit within this offense? But do you believe that the 12 personnel is going to be the formation now, and is Matthews going to be the other receiver on the field much more than Aguilar is? That's how I look at this move, because you're not going to put Matthews on the outside. He's not a deep speed threat, but he is someone that's reliable and knows the offense. And with the struggles of Aguilar, that seems like the most logical decision to make.
Yeah, so Ryan, on our latest Inside the Birds, which we posted, well, this is really what we addressed. I know Jeff has been an advocate of this, and I didn't disagree. We saw the last game that the tight ends played exactly the same amount of snaps, 70% of the snaps. That has to be the formation. I don't think there's any question about it. It works. Now, off of that, you could run it, you could pass it. The deep passing game is not going to be there. But what I had said was, should they be more tight end centric? That doesn't mean just snaps on the field. That means getting them the football. Ertz was incredible last week. By the way, the way I talked to one of my Bears guys, they were blown away with the formation variation with Ertz and how they got him open. They'd not done that with him. They ran some stuff they had not run before. And I'll be interested to see going forward in their self-scout this week for the coaches. Can they start finding more ways to get not only Ertz the football? Goddard, now that he's healthy, don't forget he had a calf injury which lasted for 2 months. Let's see if they get Goddard more involved, because he's a matchup nightmare. To me, guys, the tight ends must dominate going forward.
And we've seen New England thrive like this. I mean, I'm not suggesting that these guys are Gronk and Hernandez, but they're pretty darn good, the two guys they have. The next question, I guess, would be, does Doug Peterson view his team as a power run football team with a quarterback as a game manager almost? I mean, it seems weird to say that they're asking Wentz to almost scale back what he does well and just kind of manage games because that's what our personnel suggests we should do.
No, I think it's still what they always do. They're going to throw it more in the first half. They almost, since Doug became the head coach, probably 80% of the time in the first half, they're throwing way more than they run it, and then they run it, if they get a lead, way more than they throw it. That's what Andy Reid believes, Joe Banner believes, and that's what Doug believes. But the difference that you're seeing is this game, when they had the run well in the first half, they sustained it, where if Doug would have 2 bad runs, that's it. They're not running anymore. He's more willing to stay with it in the first half. That's been a little bit of a difference. But I don't think they're going to have much of a choice, because it's working with Jordan Howard, but as Jeff and I talked about on our last show, 26, Sanders has got to get the football more in the run game. Whether he doesn't need to get it 15 times, give him 3 to 4 carries in each half. That's 8. There's a run, by the way, we all saw it when Howard had a 15-yard run where it looked like the parting of the Red Sea. I'm telling you that Sanders would have had a 40-yard run there because Jordan Howard doesn't run well enough. So to me, you got to get that juice out of Sanders going. I think Jeff's right. Jeff's been an advocate for this whole season, and I think he might finally hit on something here on this thing. The coaches need to do a better job with that kid.
We'll leave you with this quick defensive question. They've gave up like less than 200 yards last week. They, points 14. They stopped the Bills. Is it because of inept offenses, or is their defense legitimately getting better?
It's better. The coverage is better. Mills looks really good. He hasn't looked this good in a long time, and I've been one of the biggest critics of Ronald Darby. He's playing with better eye discipline. That's a term that personnel people gave me when they would grade his tape. It made him look slow because he didn't go the right way, and he'd trail, and it looked like he was slow. He wasn't slow. He didn't judge the play right. He's playing well, though they had a couple breakdowns. The big one to Gabriel, that's easily cleaned up. Mike, it's a little bit because of who they were playing. But the big thing is they're playing with better discipline. And Fletcher Cox had his best game in the last 2 seasons I can't use the language that one of the personnel people gave me, but let's just say that the guy was blown away by what Fletcher Cox did in this past game. And don't forget Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat, folks, knowing 94 when you watch him, tremendous this past week. It's not on sacks, folks. It's about making the quarterback move off his spot. Sweat was really, really good.
And I wonder if they're going to get Avery a little bit more. He did get in there on one play, and he had 3 snaps. He got a half a sack. We'll see. Adam Caplan will be back with us, of course, for Inside the Birds next Wednesday as they get ready for the New England Patriots. You can check out the latest Inside the Birds at Inside Birds and at Adam Caplan NFL, or at Caplan NFL, and at Jeff Mosher NFL, Inside the Birds and SiriusXM NFL Radio. Adam Caplan. Thanks, pal.
Guys, thank you.
Adam Caplan, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.